In order to ace the LSAT, you've got to understand the logic inherent within the arguments. Specifically, you've got to understand why the argument is flawed in order to identify the correct answer. So let's jump right in here with number 2. All LSAT questions involve logic, so math-savvy people will ace the LSAT. What is the flaw? When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat. A, B, C, or D. A, draws conclusion from irrelevant data. B, uses biased sampling. C, overlooks opposing evidence. Or D, confuses math ability with logical reasoning. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat. A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to something. Again, A, B, C, or D. What is the flaw in this argument? We got a couple answers coming in here. I'll give folks another moment. And yes, today we're changing up the format, jumping right in with the drills. Figured more reps, more exposure, more understanding of the patterns. Today's class is a variety class. It's something special where rather than just covering one type of question, we're going to cover several different types of questions all in the same class. No lecture portion today, jumping straight in with the drills themselves. So when you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. A couple folks here saying D, a couple saying B as in Bravo. Let's see, Mariam says D with a question mark. Then she changes to B as in Bravo. Zuli says B. I'll give folks another moment. Again, A, B, C, or D. Let's see, Jada says D. So we've got a bit of a debate here between B as in Bravo and D as in Delta. Again, B was uses biased sampling. D said confuses math ability with logical reasoning. So is there a biased sample here, or are they confusing themselves with logic versus math? Let's see, Dana says B as in Bravo. T. Tucker, welcome, says D as in Delta. The answer is in fact D as in Delta, confuses math ability with logical reasoning. The evidence was about logic, but then they're jumping to a conclusion about math-savvy people. Logic and math are related, so the answer is not A because the data is not irrelevant, but they are two different things, math versus logic. So the answer is D as in Delta. The sample here is not really biased. The evidence was regarding LSAT questions, and the conclusion was also about the LSAT, so the evidence is relevant, the sample is relevant. Let's go on to number 3. Mid-level difficulty, that's why the circle is yellow. Students who join study groups often score higher, so joining guarantees improvement. What is the flaw? A, bases claim on anecdote. B, confuses often with always. C, takes correlation to imply guarantee. Or D, uses emotional appeal. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to something. See a flood of answers coming in here. A lot of folks are aligned. So choice C is what most people are choosing here. Takes correlation to imply guarantee. Jada, Dana, Zuli, T. Tucker, Autumn, Mariam, Valentina, all saying C. Takes correlation to imply guarantee. And yes, the answer is C as in Charlie. Well done. Correlation causation. We have an association between joining study groups and scoring higher. Then they're concluding from that joining guarantees improvement. Of course, not necessarily. Well done, folks. Next, number 4. No one has proven LSAT tutoring doesn't help, so it must help. What is the flaw? A, overlooks placebo effects. B, ignores alternate causes. C, concludes truth from lack of disproof. Or D, uses circular logic. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to something. Again, they're saying here, no one has proven it doesn't help, so therefore it must help. A lot of answers coming in here. Let's see what we got. Autumn, T. Tucker, Jada, Dana, Valentina, Mariam, Zuli, all saying C as in Charlie. Concludes truth from lack of disproof. That is, in fact, the answer. Well done. So what are they saying here? It's absence of evidence. Absence of evidence. What does absence of evidence mean? It means that just because we don't have the evidence doesn't mean it's not possible for evidence to arise at some point, right? We can't conclude anything concrete here based on lack of disproof, because it's possible that someone will disprove it in the future. We'll collect more information in the future. Well done, Edward. Also got it. Choice C. Well done. Next, number 5. Some tutors are unreliable, so hiring any tutor is risky. What is the flaw? A, fails to define risky. B, assumes all tutors are identical. C, equivocates on risky, meaning the meaning of risky. Or D, confuses possibility with certainty. What is the flaw? A, B, C, or D? When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to something now, since, of course, you will also have to commit on test day. Got some folks dropping answers here. Everyone seems pretty aligned on choice D. Mariam says D. Zoe says D. Autumn says D. Jada, Dana, Zuli, T. Tucker, Valentina, all saying D as in Delta, confuses possibility with certainty. Edward also saying D. Excellent. Well done. So just because it is possible for someone to be unreliable doesn't mean they will definitely be unreliable, right? So there's a possibility. It's open to interpretation that it could happen. A could does not guarantee a must. Just because someone could be unreliable doesn't mean that everybody within that category is necessarily unreliable. They could have also talked about part to whole here as well. Just because some of the category is possibly unreliable doesn't mean that every single person in that category is also unreliable. Now, Zuli asks, why not B? Excellent question, because I think B is actually a pretty tempting choice. Now, it would be bad if they did assume all tutors were identical, but are they saying here that all tutors are identical? They're not. They're saying it's risky to hire any tutor because some are unreliable. But they're not saying that all of them are unreliable. If they said because some are unreliable, therefore all of them are unreliable, and we can generalize, that would be a problem. But they are not generalizing that all are actually unreliable. They're just saying it's risky to hire a tutor because some are unreliable and you might get one who is unreliable. So it'd be bad if they assumed that, but they aren't actually assuming that here. They're saying it's risky. That's their conclusion, which is actually somewhat fair to say. Now, it's also flawed, but it's also fair. I know that's a weird thing to say here. How can both be true? Well, because some are unreliable, you're taking a risk when you hire one. But it's not necessarily the case that hiring any of them is risky, because there are ways that you can mitigate the risk to make it less risky, or maybe even not risky at all. If you hire someone who has good reviews, who you know well, who you have good reason to believe is less likely than the average to be risky, then it would not be nearly as risky to say. And Zuli says, this is where I have trouble. And that's why we do these drills, right? So more pattern recognition, more exposure to the flaws, the argument patterns in the LSAT makes them more familiar, so that over time, when you see new questions, new arguments, new methods of reasoning, you'll be able to more easily relate them to those you've done in the past, and you're not reasoning through everything the first time that you do a question like this. Now we're about 5 drills in here. Out of these first 5, please drop in the chat how many you got right out of them. If you came late, that's okay. Just put in the chat how many you got right out of those you did. And so if you only did 4, did you get 3 out of 4, 4 out of 4, 2 out of 4? Give me a sense of your accuracy, where you stand right now. Just drop in the chat how many you got right out of those you did. Edward got 2 out of 2, came late. That's awesome. Mariam got 3 out of 4. Awesome. Well done. Autumn got 4 for 4. Tucker 3 for 3. Valentina 3 for 3. Jada 4 for 4. Zoe 2 for 2. Awesome. Dana 3 for 4. Late. Folks are doing pretty great here. Zuli says, I feel like once you read it out loud and explain it, it's easier to answer. Of course. And by the way, if you want to talk through questions with me more in a more direct, more personal context, I'm offering free LSAT tutoring lessons to everybody out there watching this now or later. These questions we do on these live classes are just drills, but we can do a full LSAT style question together one-on-one. You can book that free lesson with me personally at unpluggedprep.com/start. Link below the video here on YouTube, link in the bio on Instagram, pinned in the chat as well. Zuli, I see you scheduled for Wednesday. Awesome. Looking forward to meeting with you then. Let's go on to number 6. We're changing up here, now doing inference. So what can we infer from the statement in the argument or the stimulus or the passage? Number 6, easier one. Most successful students use study plans. What can we infer? A, some successful students may not use a study plan. B, all students with study plans succeed. C, every plan guarantees improvement. Or D, success depends only on effort. What can we infer? This is a tricky one. This probably shouldn't be a green circle. I think it's actually a little bit tougher. Notice how we put most in asterisks here. And think about this question in more of a reading context rather than a logical reasoning context. Let's see, Edward says A, Autumn says B, Jada, Zuli, Zoe, Tucker, Mariam, Valentina, all saying A. I'll give a hint here. In logical reasoning, most includes the possibility of all, meaning just simply majority. So that would be like saying roughly 51% all the way up to 100%. But when we say it in a different tone, when we say most, like in italics or asterisks, most use study plans, that probably means some don't. It's implying exception, just like in everyday conversation. Most use study plans, meaning some don't. That gives us A, some successful students may not use a study plan. That's what they are suggesting. They are implying heavily that if most do, they're saying most but not all for a reason, meaning some do not. In a logical reasoning context, different story. Most would allow for the possibility of all. So the answer to this one is A, some may not use a study plan because most do, but maybe some do not. Well done, folks. Mariam's saying, oh, I think all and every are too strong. Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah, so all and every are extreme, saying 100%, not allowing for the possibility of exceptions. Well done. Number 7, we're switching gears now to negation, negating arguments, negating statements. And the reason we do negation is because for necessary assumption questions, negation is a great technique, a great tactic to use. If you do the correct choice when negated, destroys the argument. So if a student is focused, they will improve. They will improve. What would be the negation, the logical opposite of this statement? A, improvement comes from luck. B, focus always causes improvement. C, some focused students fail to improve. Or D, only focus matters. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to something. Zulia asks, what does negate mean? So negating is taking the logical opposite of a statement. The reason we do this is because in logical reasoning, for necessary assumption questions, the correct answer choice when negated destroys the argument, meaning the argument required the original form of the statement to be true in order for the argument to work. We got some answers coming in here. Edward, Brianne, Mariam, Zoe, Valentina, Micah, Autumn, Dana, Tucker, all saying choice C. Some focused students fail to improve. That is correct. Well done, folks. The answer is C. Now, how do we know this? They're saying if a student's focused, they will improve. The negation of that, or first I'll rephrase it. A student being focused guarantees that they will improve. So if you are focused, you will improve. Focus guarantees improvement. To negate that, we would say focus does not guarantee improvement, meaning it is possible to be focused yet not to improve, or to be focused yet fail to improve. And that is exactly what choice C says. There were people who were focused, yet they did not improve. So choice C is our answer. Well done, folks. Next, number 8. Steve will improve only if he reviews his mistakes. What is an underlying assumption for this statement? What is an assumption inherent in that statement? What is guaranteed by that statement? A, reviewing guarantees success. B, Steve cannot improve without reviewing. C, reviewing wastes time. Or D, improvement causes review. What is an underlying necessary assumption in this argument? Remember that for necessary assumption questions, we want to gravitate towards more moderate language because more moderate language is more likely to have been required by the argument than more extreme language would be. Flood of answers coming in here. Love to see it. Let's see here. Edward, Autumn, Adam, Brianne, Valentina, Zoe, Micah, Dana, Tucker, and Mariam all saying B, as in Bravo. We also had someone saying A here, but let's look at the argument. The argument is focused on Steve specifically. The other choices are all zooming out, big picture, talking about review in general. But the scope of this argument is limited specifically to Steve, that a singular person's context. They're saying improvement requires reviewing mistakes. So improve, arrow, review. B as in Bravo also says improve, arrow, review, and is limited within the context of Steve specifically. So if we say in choice B, Steve cannot improve without reviewing, that means Steve's improvement requires reviewing. Just like in the argument, the initial, improve only if review, again, improvement requires reviewing in the context of Steve. So again, B as in Bravo here is the answer. This question is testing your ability to interpret statements and reframe them into conditionals. Only if in the stimulus or the argument introduces the necessary condition. For B as in Bravo, the word without introduces the necessary, which would be reviewing. Then we negate the other part, the cannot improve, into improve. We change the logical truth from negative to positive in order to translate that and turn it into the sufficient condition. Mariam says, I changed cannot to can, and the argument fails. Is that a good strategy? Well, the B as in Bravo is a conditional statement, right? So when you want to negate a conditional, what you are doing is you are negating the arrow itself. So if the arrow imposes a requirement, we want to say does not require. So if B rephrased but not changed says Steve's improvement requires reviewing, to negate that you would say Steve's improvement does not require reviewing. So if you say Steve's improvement does not require reviewing, that destroys the original because they are logical opposites. Is that making sense? So in other words, I wouldn't simply change cannot to can. I would negate the arrow itself. I would negate the requirement itself. Let's go on to 9. Number 9, all LSAT Unplugged students made gains this month. The only shared factor was daily practice. Therefore, daily practice must have caused those gains. What is an underlying necessary assumption? A, coaching replaces practice. B, daily practice is what produced the gains. C, every student practiced daily this month. Or D, practice rarely helps. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to something. We've got a ton of answers coming in here. Everyone seems pretty much aligned. Let's see, Adam, Zuli, Zoe, Mariam, Autumn, Tucker, Micah, all saying B as in Bravo. Dana saying B as in Bravo as well. Fantastic, folks. The answer is, in fact, B. Daily practice is what produced the gains. They're concluding daily practice caused the gains, produced the gains, lines up pretty well. Essentially a restatement, super moderate, and that's what you want for necessary assumption, right? You want something that's moderate, that is obvious, that seems almost boringly straightforward because we already knew that based on the information in the stimulus. It's nothing new. We already knew that, and that's why it's good. And of course, if you negate that and say daily practice did not produce the gains or is not what produced the gains, that, of course, destroys the argument itself because it's in direct contradiction. Well done. Next, number 10. Anyone who truly understands conditional logic never makes reversal errors. Let's negate that. What is the logical opposite that, if true, would destroy the argument? A, understanding guarantees perfection. B, everyone makes reversal errors. C, only experts make reversals. Or D, some people understand but still make reversal errors. What is the negation of the argument? The negation, if true, destroys the argument, is the logical opposite of the original. So the original, if you understand conditional logic, then you will not make reversal errors. A prediction or a prephrase for this would be, it is possible to understand, yet to still make reversal errors. Or understanding does not require the absence of errors. Understanding allows for the possibility of errors. That would be a logical opposite from the original. And it seems that folks are pretty much aligned here, all choosing the same answer. Zuli says D with a question. Zoe, Adam, Mariam, Autumn, Tucker, Edward, Valentina, Dana, Jada, all saying D. Micah saying B as in Bravo. Most folks are saying D, and the answer is in fact D as in Delta. Some people understand, but still make reversal errors. Because the original said, understanding requires that you don't make reversal errors. To negate that, we want to say, understanding allows for the possibility that you still make reversal errors. So direct contradiction of the original. If D were true, that would destroy the original, make the argument fall apart. So we're now 10 drills in here. Out of these first 10, how many did you get right? Were you 10 for 10? If you came late, were you 9 for 9? Were you 7 for 9? Whatever you got, please drop in the chat. Give me a sense of where you stand right now in terms of your accuracy overall on these first 10. And by the way, folks, are you liking this variety format? I thought it'd be fun to just mix it up and do a bunch of different types all in the same class just to change it up. Of course, I think normally we'll still do a bunch of the same type, like several on negation, a class focused on that, a bunch on, say, reading comp, for example, but I thought today just change it up. Maybe on Mondays, we'll do more of a variety format. See, Mariam says 8 out of 9. Awesome. Zoe says 7 out of 7. Autumn, 8 out of 9. Valentina, 8 out of 9. 8 out of 8. Dana, 8 out of 10. Mariam says, I like the flaw ones more. Yeah, we'll have a class specifically on flaws coming up later this week. Mariam says they were challenging. I love it. Awesome. Micah, I guess it was 3 out of 4 so far. Cool. Great, folks. Yeah, loving it. Awesome. Okay, let's go on. Number 11. Formal logic drill. If it rains, the ground gets wet. The ground is dry. Therefore, what can we infer? What can we infer based on the information given? We've got a conditional statement. If it rains, the ground gets wet. Then we have a concrete fact to be taken as given, established that the ground is dry. So if the ground is dry, what does that do with this conditional statement that we're given? It activates the contrapositive. So if the ground is dry, that means the ground is not wet. Therefore, what can we infer? Looks like some folks are giving us their answers here. Folks seem pretty aligned here. Let's see, Autumn, Zoe, Zuli, Mariam, Valentina, Brianne, Edward, all saying B as in Bravo. Micah saying B as in Bravo as well. The answer is in fact B, therefore it didn't rain. So again, if the ground is dry, that means it was not wet. If it was not wet, it didn't rain. And that's exactly what B says. So we can predict or prephrase what the answer is going to be for this one. Well done. Next, number 12. Only students who study succeed. What can we infer? A, if someone succeeded, they studied. B, if someone studied, they succeeded. C, if someone didn't study, they succeeded. And D, studying always causes success. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to an answer. A little bit trickier, this one, I think. I think the formal logic might be trickier in general because it's not so intuitive, right? It's a little bit harder to do it in your head. You got to be able to manipulate the variables and turn them into conditional statements. So a little hint, the word only introduces the necessary condition. Whatever, in other words, what immediately follows the word only is your necessary. Then you take the other part and it becomes your sufficient, meaning it's before the arrow. So only those who study succeed. That means if you succeed, then you must have studied. And that is exactly what A says. If you succeeded, then you studied. And a bunch of people here got it right. We got Zoe, Micah, Autumn, Mariam, Jada, Brienne, Valentina, Zuli, Dana, Adam, all saying choice A. A is in fact correct. If someone succeeded, then they studied. So all you got to do here is basically take that initial statement, reframe it as a conditional, and then that gives you your answer. So succeed, arrow, study is exactly what A says. Well done. Nice. Number 13, all law students are readers. Some readers are writers. What can we infer? A, some law students are writers. B, all readers are law students. C, some writers are readers. And D, some readers are not law students. What can we infer? This one might be a little bit trickier. It's a yellow one, moderate difficulty. Now, we're not doing real world knowledge here. We only want to go for what we can infer based on the text specifically. So there are a lot of things that might be true based on your knowledge of the real world. Of course, we know for a fact in the real world that there are many people who read but are not law students. The world or number of people who read in general is much, much larger than the niche of law students. But based on the text here specifically, what can we say? And I'm giving some hints here because folks are giving a wide variety of different answers here. I see a bunch of folks saying A, a bunch of folks saying D, a lot of question marks, some saying C. Passion says, I came late, tardy, LOL, totally fine. It's okay to come in late. You come when you can. Now, let's look at the logic here. All law students are readers. So if you are a law student, then you are a reader. Separately, some readers are writers. So we could say from that some law students are what? All law students are readers and some readers are writers. Now, A says some law students are writers. We know that to be a fact in the real world, but we don't know if the readers who are writers are the same readers who are also law students. In other words, the world of readers might be much, much larger than the world of law students specifically. It's possible based on the information given here specifically. And those people who read, the law students who read, might be a separate category from the law students who write. That is a possibility. So for that reason, we knock out choice A. B says all readers are law students. That is improperly reversing the first sentence. We can't reverse a conditional like that. Being a law student means you are a reader, but being a reader does not mean you are necessarily a law student, so B is out. Now on to C, some writers are readers. And Mariam says, I think C is going backward. Are they writers? Fantastic. So C is a reversal of the second sentence that's saying some readers are writers, but the funny thing is, some readers are writers is reversible. Some statements are reversible. You can go backwards on a sum. If you said, for example, some fruits are apples, that means some apples are fruits, which is, of course, technically true. And beyond that, all apples are fruits, but some statements are reversible. So if you know that some readers are writers, that means some writers are also readers. And so Valentina is correct. Adam is correct. Passion is correct. I think Mariam was on the right track there, noting C specifically. So C is the answer. Well done. Then as for D, some readers are not law students. We know that for a fact in the real world, but there's nothing in this argument telling us that. Nothing in this fact set telling us that. We can't infer that directly. So C was the answer. Super tricky question here. Probably should have been a red circle hard, not yellow circle medium. If anybody wants to talk through this sort of logic more, you can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me personally at unpluggedprep.com/start. Link below the video here on YouTube, pinned in the comments in the chat as well. Number 14, if a student isn't focused, mistakes increase. Mistakes didn't increase. What can we infer? A, therefore, the student was focused. B, the student was unfocused. C, focus caused mistakes. Or D, mistakes always increase. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to an answer. Flood of answers coming in here. Let's see. Zuli, Autumn, Adam, Jada, Mariam, Dana, Edward, Zoe, all saying choice A. Micah saying A. Brianne saying A. Fantastic. The answer is, in fact, A. Therefore, the student was focused. Why? Because the second statement, mistakes did not increase, is activating the contrapositive of the first sentence. So the first sentence is saying, not focused, then mistakes increase. If mistakes didn't increase, then the student is focused. We can predict this. It's really the only straightforward inference you're going to get out of the combination of the conditional plus the activation of the contrapositive of the conditional. Basically, if you negate the necessary condition, you then negate the sufficient. So if you had, for example, super simple example, X requires Y, then you have not Y, we can then infer not X. Or for example, if pizza makes me happy and I'm not happy, therefore I did not have pizza because pizza makes me happy every single time. So if you see me not happy, must mean I didn't have pizza. Number 15, whenever a student studies carefully, they improve. Everyone who improves gains confidence. Everyone who gains confidence stops panicking. What must be true? A, everyone who panics studied carefully. B, anyone who studies carefully stops panicking. C, anyone confident never studied carefully. Or D, no one who studies carefully improves. What can we infer from this set of facts? Folks are answering pretty fast. I love it. All right, let's see what we got here. A bunch of folks all saying the same thing. Adam says B, Zuli says B, Brianne, Jada, Edward, Zoe, Autumn, Micah, Passion, Mariam, all saying choice B. And yes, in fact, B is the answer. Anyone who studies carefully never stops panicking. Anyone who studies carefully stops panicking. Why? It's just the result, the logical result of chaining these conditional statements together, right? So study carefully, then improve, then gain confidence, then stops panicking. So it's like A requires B requires C requires D, therefore A requires D. Just chaining those conditional statements together. And if they wanted to make this one harder, they would have put the statements out of order, or they would have had some of them in the contrapositive form, requiring you to reverse and negate the conditional statements. That would be a way to level up the difficulty of it. And yes, Mariam's saying exactly A to D. Exactly right. Well done, folks. All right, so we're 15 in here. Out of these first 15, how many did you get right? Give me in the chat where you stand. Were you 12 for 15, 15 for 15, 10 out of 15? Whatever you got, just drop in the chat. Let me know where you stand. And by the way, folks, if you're enjoying these free classes, please spread the word. The only way this grows is through word of mouth. I don't do any advertising for these free classes. We do them every day, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 1 Central, 11 Pacific. Please spread the word. The more this grows, the more I'll keep doing this, the more I'll keep leveling these up. Longer classes, more classes. Maybe we'll expand to weekends over time. Maybe we'll bring in more coaches as well besides me. But again, the only way this grows is through your spreading the word. So please share it in your Slacks, in your Discords, your group chats, wherever you know others who are studying for the test. Let's see here. Mariam got 13 out of 14. Fantastic. Micah is 6 for 8. Passion got 3 for the ones that she did. Valentina 13 for 13. Awesome. Jada 12 out of 14. Dana 12 out of 15. Mariam 12 out of 14. Awesome. Folks are doing great. Keep at it, folks. We're still going strong here. Number 16. Main point question. Focusing on accuracy reduces LSAT timing anxiety. What is the main point? A, accuracy reduces timing stress. B, speed matters more than accuracy. C, guessing improves scores. D, anxiety can't be managed. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark or do commit to something. Folks are dropping in the chat here. Everyone's aligned saying A. Adam says A. Mariam says A. The chat's jumping really fast here. Edward says A. Passion says A. Brianne says A. Autumn, Valentina, Jada, Micah. All correct. Folks are nailing it. Yes. Easy one to start. Accuracy reduces timing stress. Basically exactly what the original said, just changing anxiety for stress. Otherwise, it's the same. Mario says, I wish C were true. LOL. Yeah, so guessing improves scores. I mean, I'll actually say guessing does improve scores, meaning that there's no guessing penalty on the LSAT, right? So if you're not sure, if you're totally at a loss, better to bubble something than to bubble nothing. And then, of course, process of elimination is a valid strategy as well. If you can eliminate 4 choices, whatever remains has got to be your answer. Number 17, removing logic games makes the LSAT fairer. What is the main point? A, games test key skills. B, the LSAT should remove all sections. C, fairness has not changed. D, removing games increases fairness. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just put a question mark, but do commit to something. Folks dropping answers in the chat here. Brianne, Zoe, Zuli, Mariam, Adam, Autumn, Edward, Micah, Passion, Valentina, Dana, Jada, all saying D as in Delta. That is correct. The answer is, in fact, D as in Delta. Removing games increases fairness. Again, paraphrase of the original. Makes the LSAT fairer. Lines up with increasing fairness. Adam says, thank God they removed the games because of the lawsuit. Yes, so for those who aren't aware, they removed games because there was a lawsuit. A blind test taker sued LSAC saying it wasn't fair that LSAC would not give accommodations because it was pretty hard to do games without being able to diagram if you can't see. And I think that was a fair point, right? I mean, to do games with no diagramming was virtually impossible. I certainly had to diagram. And so I think they should have just accommodated the folks who couldn't benefit from diagramming, but instead LSAC refused to budge. They got sued, and now games are off the test for everybody. But good news for everyone out there now. Less material to study, no games, more logical reasoning. It might be easier now than it was before. Number 18, AI tools help with prep, but can't replace reasoning. What is the main point? A, AI fully replaces reasoning. B, AI harms performance. C, AI assists, but doesn't replace reasoning. Or D, AI use should be banned. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just put a question mark, but please do commit to something. Bunch of folks all answering here. Zuli, Brianne, Adam, Zoe, Dana, Mariam, Valentina, Autumn, Passion, Micah, all saying C. Edward saying C. The answer is in fact C. Well done, folks. AI assists, but doesn't replace reasoning. Why? Because in the original, AI tools help, AI assists. That's a paraphrase. Can't replace reasoning, doesn't replace reasoning. So lines up, it's a paraphrase, it works. And A, by the way, opposite of the original, it's a cannot be true. If A is saying fully replaces, original says can't. Total opposite. Well done, folks. Number 19, rankings are flawed, but offer limited insight into admissions trends. What is the main point? A, rankings are useless. B, rankings have some value. C, rankings should be ignored. Or D, rankings determine admission. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to something. Bunch of answers coming in here. Folks are all saying the same one. B, rankings have some value. Mariam, Zoe, Autumn, Adam, Passion, L. Jackson, welcome. Micah, Edward, Zuli, all saying B. Dana saying B. Jada saying B. Valentina. Excellent. So the answer is B. Rankings have some value. They're flawed, meaning they're not perfect, but they do give some limited insight, meaning they have some value. Well done. Number 20. This one's a bit longer. Supporters of GPA say it reflects persistence. LSAT advocates call it a truer set of reasoning. Studies, however, show the best predictions of success come from considering both together. What is the main point? A, GPA and LSAT measure unrelated abilities, so comparisons are meaningless. B, using only one predictor oversimplifies admissions decisions. C, GPA is a stronger indicator of potential than LSAT scores. D, the question of which metric matters most remains unresolved. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to an answer. This one's a bit tougher. Looks like some folks are getting it, some folks are unsure. Let's see what we got here. Edward says B, Zuli says B, Passion says D, Dana says B, Zoe says D, Micah says B, Adam says B, Autumn says D, Mariam says B with a question, Brienne says B, L. Jackson says D. So a mix of B and D. What is the main point? Not just what can we infer, but what is the main point of this argument? So the first two sentences, the GPA sentence, the LSAT sentence, are both kind of giving background. Then we have however, indicating change in direction. Telling us what came before it is all just kind of setting the stage, giving context or background. Studies show the best predictions of success come from considering both together. So yes, both should be considered. So which choice best suggests both should be considered? D is focusing more on the fact that it's unresolved, unknown. We don't have an answer. But B as in Bravo is saying using only one is oversimplifying, and we want to have both. So yes, B in fact is the answer. Autumn, Mariam, L. Jackson all settling on B. B as in Bravo is in fact the answer. Using only one oversimplifies, meaning we want to have both. Well done. Hard one. All right, so out of these first 20 that we've done, quick check-in, folks. Where do you stand? How many did you get out of these first 20 for however many you joined for? Are you, say, 20 for 20, 18 for 18, 19 for 19, or maybe 15 for 19, wherever you're at? Drop in the chat where you stand, just so that we have a bit more context on where you're at, how you're doing. All right, so Mariam is 17 for 19, pretty solid. Zuli 16 for 19, Micah 11 for 13, Valentina 17 for 18, Autumn 17 for 19, pretty good. Maybe today's been a bit harder than the previous. I don't know, I think the mixed format's kind of fun, but maybe it also makes it a bit more challenging to constantly have to task switch from question type to question type, which is actually what you got to do on test day as well, right? Logical reasoning is a grab bag. You've got 25, 26 questions of all different types. You're doing strengthen, weaken, flaw, necessary assumption, sufficient assumption, and so on, all different types, one after the other, a whole variety, right? And so that's what we're doing today is a whole variety. Zuli says, no, please make these hard. Micah says the challenge is fun. Mariam says make them harder. Okay, yeah, we'll keep making them harder. Valentina says, I agree. Okay, so we'll keep making them harder over time. Maybe the variety format's the way to go, but I'll also keep doing some classes focused specifically on a single type, but just make them harder overall on average. All right, so let's keep going here, folks. Number 21. Luke says maximum pain. Okay, great. Brian says I silence my phone from the distractions. Okay, cool. So 21, tone question. It's refreshing to see reasoning valued over rote drills for logic games. It is refreshing. What is the tone? Is it defensive? A, defensive. B, encouraging. C, neutral. D, sarcastic. What is the tone? A, defensive. B, encouraging. C, neutral. D, sarcastic. It's refreshing to see reasoning valued over rote drills for logic games. That's kind of what the LSAT's done, right? They got rid of logic games, more logical reasoning. That's really what they're valuing on the LSAT these days. A lot of folks are all answering the same. B. Zuli says B. Passion, Brienne, Valentina, Micah, Edward, Mariam, Autumn, all saying B. The answer is in fact B, encouraging. Why? Because they say it's refreshing. They like it, it's positive. And B is really the only positive tone word that we're getting here. D, some folks said, say, when someone said D, sarcastic, we would need more of an indication of sarcasm. It's possible this person is being sarcastic, like it's refreshing, but they're not really, we can't hear that tone of voice in this text, right? We would need a bit more to give that to us. 22, law school debt numbers speak for themselves. 180K median, no adjectives required. What is the tone of this statement? A, objective, B, alarmed, C, humorous, or D, bitter? What's the tone of this statement? Law school debt numbers speak for themselves. 180K median, no adjectives required. All right, so a lot of folks answering here. Dana, Adam, Brianne, Micah, Luke, all saying D. Mariam saying D. Passion says she likes C and D. Autumn says D. Couple folks saying B. Zuli says B. Valentina says B. L. Jackson says A. So a little bit tough, but we got a mix here. If I had to say, I'd probably agree with D as in bitter. No, why? Because they say it speaks for themselves. No adjectives required. 180K is obviously a pretty large number. So they're probably saying they don't like it. If you were saying alarmed, we would need them calling out more like this is a catastrophe. Someone's got to do something about this. We don't have that here. Objective would be a bit more like a graph or a chart just reporting the numbers straightforwardly, saying the average debt is 180K median, period. And that would just be the end of it. But when they say speak for themselves, no adjectives required, it's probably giving some sort of tone here, indicating that they don't like it. A little bit tough though. Zuli says could be neutral. That neutral, I think, would line up with A, objective, meaning that we just are straightforwardly reporting the facts without any opinion, without any context. But saying speak for themselves, no adjectives required, means they're probably expressing some sort of opinion on this, like they don't like it, which I think lines up best with bitter. Again, alarmed would be more like catastrophizing, really sounding the alarm. Number 23, test optional policies are a step forward, though we'd be naive to think they erase every barrier. What is the tone? A, cynical, B, cautiously optimistic, C, dismissive, or D, exuberant? What is the tone? A, cynical, B, cautiously optimistic, C, dismissive, or D, exuberant? All right, so let's see. We've got a bunch of folks answering here. Brianne says B, Mariam, Luke, Micah, Dana, Autumn, Passion, Zuli, all saying B as in Bravo. Valentina saying B. Valentina all saying B, cautiously optimistic. That is in fact correct. Well done, folks. Why? Because they acknowledge it's a step forward. That's the optimism. But the second half says we'd be naive to think they erase every barrier. So they're saying step forward, positive, but also saying they're not erasing every barrier. That is the caution portion here. I see Charlotte and Edward also saying B. Welcome, folks. Welcome, Charlotte. And so question here, what does D mean? Exuberant. Great question. I thought that might be a tricky one. So exuberant is like kind of super positive. They're enthusiastic. They're excited. They love it. Now, how would you know that? Based on context, you wouldn't probably. So if you didn't know what exuberant meant, you could see, can I eliminate all the others? Can I knock out A, B, C? If so, whatever remains, even if I don't know what it says, would have to be the answer by elimination. In reading comp, you can read for context. If this word exuberant were in a sentence, you could then look above and below to get a bit more of a tonal sense there. Number 24. Oh, sure, skip studying. Just manifest a 180 and let the universe handle logic games. What is the tone? A, supportive, B, earnest, C, neutral, or D, sarcastic? When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to an answer. Zuli says D, Luke says D, Autumn, Brianne, Passion, Micah, Mariam, Dana, all saying D. Valentina says D. Mariam says more like a rude tone. You're right though. The rude tone is something. Your tone reading that gave it away, huh? Well, yeah, but that's what it's saying though. Okay, so why did I have that tone? Well, first of all, suggesting that someone skip studying, like really? You think I'm going to say that you should skip studying for the LSAT, given what I do? Then also the manifesting a 180. In the world of the LSAT and logical reasoning, we're not big on manifestation, right? Like I'm not saying manifestation has nothing to it, but that's not really the vibe that we're going for in the LSAT world, right? So the universe is not handling anything for us. We've got to take control of our LSAT prep by actually studying for this thing. And so that's why this is sarcasm. And so what would earnest sound like? Valentina is asking. So earnest is like saying they're being super straightforward, super honest, kind of the opposite of sarcastic. So if you're saying it in earnest, it means you're really serious. Like imagine your yoga spiritual guru is coming to you and saying that you could skip studying and just meditate and manifest. Not what I'm going to say, but that's what they're going to say. So they're saying we really actually think that is the proper approach to handle this. And so earnest from me would be saying carve out 2-3 hours a day to hit the books, study for your LSAT, take a practice test once a week. That's actually what I typically say to folks in a lot of cases, right? That's me being earnest and straightforward. Legitimately, that's what a lot of people should be doing. Sarcasm would be saying, don't study, go out, party every weekend. The LSAT will take care of itself. And it's not even really that important. Like, you really think I'm saying that? No, of course not. So if your guru says that, you should get another guru. Yeah, probably. So earnest versus sarcasm, they're kind of like opposites. So the skipping, studying, manifesting, not what you're going to hear from me, that's sarcasm. Let's go to the next year. 25. AI graded essays might save time, but perfectionists and skeptics both exaggerate. The truth sits somewhere in between. What is the tone? A, analytical and skeptical. B, passionate and biased. C, detached and indifferent. Or D, defensive and hostile. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat. A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to something. Bunch of answers coming in here. Let's see what we got. Folks all saying A. Autumn says A. Zuli, Dana, Passion, Micah, Brienne, Valentina, Mariam, Edward, all saying A. Analytical and skeptical. Why? Because this is the most straightforward description of tone. And it's balanced, it's moderate. Look at the others. B, biased. We have no reason to think this is biased. This person is saying it's in the middle, between. C, detached and indifferent, both saying they don't care. D, defensive and hostile, that's more argumentative. But A, analytical and skeptical, that means they're kind of taking a reasoned position. They don't totally love it, but they're somewhere in the middle. So A, I think, would be the best description of the tone here. I know someone said detached and indifferent, but again, that would mean they really don't care. This person is looking at the evidence and they're choosing a position. So A is the best answer here. All right, we're 25 in, folks. Out of these first 25, give me just a quick pulse check where you're standing on these, how many you got right out of the 25 or 24, whatever you did. Drop in the chat your accuracy out of the total questions that you attempted. Are you 23 for 24, 20 out of 22, wherever you're at? Just give me a check-in where you stand here. See, Zuli's 20 out of 24, pretty good. Mariam, 22 out of 24. We'll keep going and do a handful more, folks. But again, I just want to get a quick sense how folks are overall feeling about the variety format, mixing it up, all different question types versus a whole class devoted to one single type. I'll level up the difficulty of these regardless on average, but I want to know which format you prefer so I can just know how to better guide these classes going forward. And by the way, folks, we're doing these every day, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Central, 11 Pacific, every single weekday. If you haven't already, please spread the word in your group chats, your Slacks, your Discords, You're wherever you're chatting with others who study for the LSAT, please spread the word. The only way this grows is through word of mouth. I don't do any advertising for these classes. Next, 26. One student improved 10 points after focusing on accuracy. What is the function? What is the role of this statement? What does it do in context? A states conclusion, B introduces objection, C gives illustration, or D adds background. What is the function of that statement? And the correct, Mario, we're not doing these on the weekends for now. Maybe that'll change over time, but for now, just weekdays. And Luke says it's 4 a.m. here. Where are you checking in from, Luke? Most of us are in North America, but I'm glad you're able to join us, even though it's pretty early or late, depending on how you count it. All right, so what is the most likely function of this statement? One student improves 10 points after focusing on accuracy. Edward says A, Luke says C, Mariam says C, Zuli says A, Micah, Valentina, Dana all saying C, and Brienne saying C, Autumn saying C. The answer is in fact C, gives an illustration. That one student most likely serves as an example to illustrate an overall trend, maybe illustrating the benefits of focusing on accuracy. If it were A, states conclusion, we might want to have more of a conclusion indicator like thus or therefore. Luke says, joining from Taiwan. Welcome, Luke. Glad you're able to join us, even though it's 4 a.m. Nice. So yeah, so C gives illustration is the best answer for this because one student is likely just an example. Number 27. However, some argue timing pressure reflects real-world stress. What is the function of this statement in context? A, summarizes argument. B, provides example. C, restates thesis. Or D, introduces counterpoint. What is the function of that statement? When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat. A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but please do commit to something. Luke says, long night mulling over whether to apply this cycle. Yeah, tough decision. I'm sure there's a lot of factors there. If you want to talk it through, you could book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me, unpluggedprep.com/start, and we could talk through it together. For this question, Luke says D, Mariam says D, Zuli, Passion, Micah, Edward, Brienne, Dana, Autumn, Valentina, all saying D as in Delta, introducing counterpoint. Yes. Why? Because of the word however, indicating change in direction. So however is a change, a pivot word, countering whatever came before. So that would be the role of that statement in whatever context it appeared. Number 28. This shows mastery requires consistent reflection. What is the function of this statement? A, states conclusion. B, notes exception. C, introduces example. Or D, provides background. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. This shows mastery requires consistent reflection. Couple folks saying C, couple folks saying A. Bit of a debate there. Mariam, Zuli, both say C. Luke, Micah, Mariam, Brienne, Autumn, all saying A. Edward saying A. Valentina saying A. It's okay to change your answer, by the way, folks. That's totally fine. Just like on test day, you're going to be debating between two. Mariam says, this shows is a conclusion indicator. Exactly right. So this shows means that what came before was the evidence. That would have been the example. And then mastery requires consistent reflection is the conclusion. So the answer is in fact A, states conclusion. Well done, folks who chose A. And then the example would have been whatever came right before the statement in question. So example, period, this shows blah, blah, blah. So the example came before, but what we're looking at now is the conclusion. Nice. 29. Since earlier studies were ignored anxiety, their results were incomplete. What is the function? A, summarizes findings. B, offers counterexample. C, identifies flaw in prior work. Or D, repeats claim. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. Bunch of folks dropping answers here. Let's see. Micah, Edward, Mariam, Brienne, Autumn, Passion, Luke, all saying C. Identifies flaw in prior work. Yes. Their results were incomplete and they ignored anxiety. That means there was a problem in the prior work, and that's why the results were incomplete. So yes, C as in Charlie is the answer. Well done. There was a flaw because they were missing something. Exactly right. Number 30, tougher. In other words, success on the LSAT isn't just hitting 90% accuracy on one section. It means sustaining accuracy and focus across the entire exam. What is the function of this statement? A, summarizes prior discussion. B, introduces an example. C, rejects a counterpoint. Or D, redefines a key term to reframe the argument. A, B, C, or D. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat. If you're not sure, put a question mark, but please do commit to an answer. All right, so a bunch of folks dropping answers here. Let's see, most folks seem pretty much aligned here. Zuli, Mariam, Edward, Micah, Autumn, Passion, all saying D. Luke saying A. Yeah, so the, in other words, initial phrase does suggest that it's rephrasing what came prior. But overall, I think that they elaborate a lot on this success term, right? So maybe the first half of this argument, of this statement, would be some sort of reframe of what came prior. But then they are actually expanding the scope of the definition of success. They're saying it's not just hitting 90% accuracy, it means something else as well, sustaining accuracy and focus across the entire exam. So redefining a key term is a better summation of the role of this statement. Redefining a key term to reframe the argument. That is the overall focus or role of this statement in particular. So again, I think that A, you could make an argument for the first A fitting the first half, but if we look at the entire statement, redefinition of a key term is a much better fit. So now we're 30 drills in here. Out of these 30, please drop in the chat how many you got right. Were you doing 30 out of 30? If you only did 29 or 28, how many did you get right out of the ones that you attempted? Please drop in the chat just to give me a sense of where you stand in terms of your accuracy overall. So I could get a kind of a pulse checker in terms of where folks are doing, how they're doing on this. Tomorrow, we're going to be covering necessary assumption and negation. We'll go deep on that, but we're going to maintain this variety format as well for some future classes. Mariam got 27 out of 29. Awesome. Zuli, 26 of 29. Micah, 20 out of 30. But I think you came late, right? Luke, 8 out of the 10 that he did. Awesome, folks. So again, tomorrow we're covering negation, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific. I'll see you all then. Thanks for joining. And again, please spread the word. Wish you all the best, folks. Take care. Talk to you soon.